Irvin Yalom, the eminent existential psychiatrist, consistently champions a truth many instinctively recoil from: that profound awareness of death isn't a morbid indulgence, but a vital catalyst for a truly authentic existence. In his seminal work, Staring at the Sun, Overcoming the Dread of Death, Yalom doesn't just theorize about our ultimate demise. He invites us to gaze directly into its blinding light, promising that on the other side of that unsettling confrontation lies not despair, but liberation. The common human tendency is to build elaborate defense mechanisms against the stark reality of non-being. We distract ourselves with ceaseless activity, accumulate possessions, or chase fleeting pleasures, all in an unconscious effort to outrun the inevitable. Yet, Yalom argues these very defenses, while offering temporary comfort, simultaneously diminish our lives, keeping us tethered to the superficial and blind to profound. Consider the patient in Yalom's therapy room, often initially presented with anxieties that seem far removed from mortality: relationship issues, career stagnation, generalized unease. As Yalom gently, yet persistently, peels back the layers, he frequently uncovers an underlying, unacknowledged death anxiety. This isn't necessarily a conscious fear of dying tomorrow, but a pervasive, existential dread of our finite nature, of the not being. He suggests that so much of human suffering stems from this unaddressed terror, manifesting as neuroses, an inability to fully commit to life, or a persistent feeling of unfulfillment. For Yalom, therapy, in part, becomes a journey of helping individuals integrate this awareness into their conscious mind, allowing it to become a source of profound change rather than repressed fear. He often speaks of the death-driven life, where the awareness of time's limited nature becomes the engine for profound shifts. Imagine someone spending years in a soul-crushing job, endlessly postponing their dreams. The unconscious thought is often, "I have plenty of time." But when the finite nature of that time is truly internalized, the urgency of living authentically skyrockets. The thought shifts to, if not now, when? This isn't about rushing into recklessness, but about a newfound clarity regarding what truly matters. Priorities snap into sharp focus. Petty grievances fade. The courage to pursue long-deferred passions emerges. It's the moment the individual realizes that they're precious. Finite time should not be squandered on anything less than what truly resonates with their deepest values. A powerful passage from Staring at the Sun recounts Yalom's own encounters with patients nearing the end of their lives, or those who have had near-death experiences. These individuals, having stared directly into the abyss, often report a radical transformation perspective. They describe a vivid sense of what's truly important, a shedding of fear, and intensified appreciation for every moment. This isn't morbid. It's intensely life-affirming. It suggests that by confronting our mortality, we can access a similar depth of appreciation and purpose before a crisis forces it upon us. We don't have to wait for a terminal diagnosis to truly start living. The liberation Yalom speaks of comes from several angles. Firstly, it frees us from the tyranny of trivial concerns. When confronted with the enormity of our limited time, the need for social approval, the pursuit of fleeting material gains, or the dwelling on past slights often lose their grip. Secondly, it fosters a profound appreciation for the present moment. Each breath, each interaction, each sunrise becomes imbued with a heightened significance, transforming ordinary experiences into extraordinary ones. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, it impels us towards authentic living. To live authentically, in Yalom's view, is to align our actions with our deepest values, to pursue what truly brings us meaning, and to cultivate genuine connections, all while acknowledging the finite stage upon which our lives unfold. It's a call to action, whispered from the silent presence of our own mortality, urging us to finally live. Irvin Yalom's therapeutic philosophy deeply confronts us with profound and often daunting reality of freedom. This isn't the political freedom to vote or express ourselves, but far more existential and unsettling kind. The radical freedom to create ourselves, to make our own choices, and to bear the sole responsibility for the lives we construct. In a world that often seeks to externalize blame or find preordained paths, Yalom insists that true liberation comes from acknowledging this formidable weight, rather than shying away from it. He challenges the comforting illusion that our lives are primarily dictated by external circumstances, genetics, or past traumas, arguing instead that while these factors influence us, we retain an ultimate, unassailable freedom in how we respond to them. This concept is central to his work, frequently appearing in his clinical accounts and theoretical writings, such as The Gift of Therapy. Yalom observes that many patients arrive in therapy feeling victimized, stuck in patterns they perceive as outside their control. They might attribute their unhappiness to a difficult childhood, a challenging boss, or unsupportive partners. While empathizing with these struggles, Yalom's approach gently but firmly guides them toward recognizing their own agency. He doesn't dismiss the impact of past events, but rather emphasizes the power of choice in the present moment and moving forward. For Yalom, even in the most constrained circumstances, we retain the freedom to choose our attitude, our response, and our inner world. This is not about blaming the victim. It's about empowering the individual to reclaim their inherent capacity for self-determination. The weight of this freedom comes from the absence of external guarantees or pre-written scripts. If we are truly free, then there is no one else to blame for our unlived lives, our unfulfilled desires, or our missed opportunities. This realization can be terrifying. It means confronting the possibility that we ourselves have chosen, perhaps unconsciously, patterns of behavior that lead to suffering. It means that the responsibility for constructing a meaningful life rests squarely on our own shoulders. This is a stark contrast to belief systems that offer predetermined destinies or external saviors. Yalom's view is more akin to an artist facing a blank canvas. The possibilities are infinite, but so is the responsibility for what ultimately appears. However, it is precisely this weight that can transform into immense power. When individuals truly internalize their freedom, they move from a passive, reactive stance to an active, creative one. The question shifts from, why is this happening to me, to what will I do now? This shift is incredibly liberating. It unlocks a potential for authentic action, for genuine change, and for a profound sense of self-authorship. As Yalom often illustrates through his patient stories, recognizing one's fundamental freedom allows for the shedding of resentment, the cessation of blaming others, and the courage to make difficult but necessary choices. It's the moment a patient realizes they can, in fact, leave an unfulfilling relationship, pursue a passion, or set boundaries, even if it feels daunting. The fear of uncertainty is replaced by the exhilaration of self-creation. In Love's Executioner and other tales of psychotherapy, Yalom often depicts characters grappling with this exact challenge. They might complain about feeling trapped, yet through his empathetic but uncompromising lens, he helps them see the subtle ways they perpetuate their own entrapment through their choices, or lack thereof. The therapeutic breakthrough often occurs when the patient embraces this responsibility, realizing that while they cannot control every circumstance, they can control their response, their attitude, and their direction. This ownership of one's choices, and thus one's destiny, is a cornerstone of an existentially informed life. It's a call not to passive acceptance, but to active, deliberate, and courageous self-creation, recognizing that the very burden of freedom is, in fact, our greatest gift. Irvin Yalom, with his signature blend of profound insight and therapeutic honesty, consistently brings to light a fundamental paradox of the human condition. Despite our innate craving for belonging, we are, at our core, existentially isolated. This isn't the social isolation of loneliness, the absence of friends or community, but a deeper, more pervasive sense of being ultimately alone in our individual consciousness, a truth that no amount of companionship can fully erase. Yalom argues that while we can connect with others on myriad levels, share experiences, and offer empathy, no one can truly walk in our shoes, experience our subjective world precisely as we do, or die our death for us. This inherent existential isolation is, for Yalom, one of the four ultimate concerns of life, and acknowledging it is crucial for forming more authentic, rather than superficial connections. In works like The Gift of Therapy and Love's Executioner, Yalom frequently illustrates how patients struggle with this deep-seated aloneness. They might express a vague sense of alienation, a feeling that no one truly gets them, or a constant yearning for a connection that perpetually eludes them. The common societal response to this feeling is often to seek more external validation, more superficial friendships, or even to lose oneself in the crowd. However, Yalom suggests that these strategies, while temporarily distracting, ultimately fail to address the core issue. Instead, They can lead to a more profound sense of emptiness as the individual tries to fill an unfillable void with external gratification. The paradox lies in this. It is precisely when we acknowledge our fundamental aloneness that we become capable of forming deeper, more genuine connections. When we stop demanding that others erase our isolation, an impossible task, we can then appreciate them for what they can offer: shared moments, mutual understanding, and empathetic presence. Yalom posits that true connection doesn't dissolve our aloneness. Rather, it is built upon the very foundation of two separate, unique individuals choosing to meet each other in a space of vulnerability and mutual respect. This perspective shifts the burden from others to complete us to a more realistic and empowering view of relationships as a meeting of independent beings. Consider Yalom's own approach in the therapy room. He often speaks of himself as a fellow traveler, acknowledging his own humanity and existential concerns. This isn't about being a detached expert, but about meeting the patient in a place of shared vulnerability, implicitly recognizing that both therapist and patient are grappling with the same fundamental truths of existence, including isolation. By modeling this authentic vulnerability, Yalom invites his patients to drop their own facades, allowing for a level of connection that transcends superficial roles. This radical honesty about our shared human condition, including our aloneness, paradoxically creates a bridge for deeper understanding and compassion. The liberation from this paradox comes when we stop viewing existential isolation as a flaw to be corrected and start seeing it as an inherent aspect of being human. This acceptance can lead to several powerful shifts. Firstly, it fosters self-reliance and an ability to comfortably be with oneself, reducing the desperate need for constant external validation. Secondly, it allows for greater appreciation of the connections we do have, valuing their quality over their quantity. We learn to cherish those rare moments of profound attunement with another person, knowing that while they may not erase our aloneness, they certainly enrich our journey. Finally, by understanding that others, too, experience this fundamental isolation, it cultivates a deep sense of empathy and compassion, strengthening our capacity for genuine human solidarity. It's in a quiet acknowledgement of our individual journeys that we truly find our way to one another. Irvin Yalom challenges one of humanity's most deeply ingrained desires, the need for an external preordained meaning or purpose to life. He posits that the universe, in its vast indifference, offers no inherent answers or grand design waiting to be discovered. This notion, often termed existential meaninglessness, can initially feel profoundly unsettling, even terrifying. If there's no divine plan or cosmic blueprint, does anything truly matter? Yalom argues that it is precisely in the absence of an inherent answer that our greatest freedom and responsibility emerge. The task of actively creating our own meaning. This isn't a passive discovery. It's an ongoing, dynamic process of construction, akin to an artist building their own unique cosmos within the void. Yalom explores this concept extensively across his works, particularly when discussing patients grappling with feelings of emptiness, apathy, or a lack of direction. Many individuals arrive in therapy searching for the meaning of life, hoping for a definitive revelation. Yalom gently yet firmly redirects them from his external search to an internal one. He illustrates that meaning is not found out there, but is rather woven into the fabric of our lived experience through our choices, our commitments, and our relationships. The existential vacuum, as he often refers to it, is not something to be filled by external dictates, but by our own purposeful engagement with the world. A powerful aspect of Yalom's approach is his emphasis on the subjective nature of meaning. What provides meaning for one person, be it a demanding career, a spiritual practice, raising children, or artistic creation, may hold no significance for another. There is no universal prescription, and the beauty lies in this individuality. This puts the onus and the power squarely on the individual to identify and pursue what genuinely resonates with them. This process often involves deep introspection, a willingness to experiment, and the courage to stray from conventional paths if they do not align with one's personal values. Consider a passage from Existential psychotherapy where Yalom delves into the various ways individuals attempt to cope with meaninglessness, from immersing themselves in work and hedonism to adopting rigid belief systems. While these can offer temporary solace, he suggests they often fail to provide lasting fulfillment because they sidestep the fundamental task of self-creation. True meaning, in Yalom's view, arises from active engagement and commitment. It's about finding something larger than oneself to serve, or a personal project that imbues life with purpose. This could be anything from dedicated craftsmanship, fighting for a social cause, or nurturing a profound love. The liberation from the dread of meaninglessness comes when we embrace this creative task. It frees us from the futile quest for external validation and empowers us to become the architects of our own purposeful existence. Instead of feeling aimless in a vast, indifferent universe, we become agents of significance, imbuing our lives with our own chosen values and pursuits. This ongoing process of meaning-making isn't a single event but a continuous journey, evolving as we grow and change. It's about actively throwing ourselves into life, as Yalom might put it, committing to endeavors that light up our inner world and give shape to our unique cosmos. It is in this courageous act of self-creation that we find our most profound and personal answers to the question of why we are here. At the heart of Irvin Yalom's therapeutic approach, and indeed much of his wisdom, lies a profound emphasis on the here and now. This isn't just a psychological concept. It's a call to arms for genuine living, a plea to fully inhabit the present moment rather than being lost in the regrets of the past or the anxieties of the future. For Yalom, cultivating presence is a cornerstone for richer relationships, deeper self-awareness, and more potent experience of life itself. He often illustrates how individuals, both in and out of therapy, frequently operate on autopilot, their minds miles away from their current interactions or internal experiences, thereby missing the very essence of their lives as they unfold. In his groundbreaking work, The Gift of Therapy, Yalom repeatedly stresses the significance of what transpires in a room during a session. He views the therapeutic encounter itself as a microcosm of life, a living laboratory where patterns of relating and existing can be observed and changed. If a patient habitually avoids eye contact, deflects uncomfortable questions, or speaks in generalities rather than specific feelings, Yalom brings these behaviors into the here and now of the session. He gently but persistently asks, "What are you experiencing right now as you say that?" Or, "What do you notice happening between us at this moment?" This direct engagement with the present interaction helps the patient become aware of their own patterns, often for the first time, and provides an immediate opportunity for change. The power of the here and now extends far beyond the therapy office. Think about our everyday interactions. How often are we truly listening when someone speaks, rather than formulating our reply, checking our phone, or planning our next task? How often do we fully taste our food, feel the sun on our skin, or truly see the person in front of us without our minds wandering? Yalom argues that this constant mental time travel robs us of life's richness. When we are not present, our relationships suffer from a lack of genuine connection. Our work becomes rote, and our personal experiences feel thin and unsatisfying. Cultivating presence involves several key elements. Firstly, it requires attunement to one's own internal landscape. This means noticing thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations as they arise, without judgment. It's about developing an inner observer that can witness our own experience. Secondly, it demands focused attention on external reality, truly seeing, hearing, and sensing what is happening around us. This mindful engagement anchors us to the present. Lastly, and perhaps most challenging, it involves letting go of distraction and attachment to outcomes. Instead of clinging to how things should be or fearing how they might turn out, presence invites us to simply be with what is. Yalom often recounts clinical vignettes where a patient's breakthrough occurs when they are able to truly connect with feeling or a moment in the present. For example, a patient might intellectually understand their anger, but only truly begin to process it when they're guided to feel its physical manifestation right then in the session. This immediate, lived experience is far more potent than any abstract discussion. This practice, when applied to relationships, means engaging with genuine curiosity, listening actively, and responding from a place of authentic feeling, rather than from preconceived notions or social scripts. It means seeing the other person for who they are in that moment, with their vulnerabilities and strengths, and allowing ourselves to be seen in return. This courageous vulnerability, rooted in presence, is what forges truly profound bonds. The liberation lies in experiencing life not as a blur of past and future, but as a series of rich, deeply felt moments, each one brimming with potential. Irvin Yalom's most profound and perhaps most comforting contribution lies in his concept of the fellow traveler. This isn't just a charming metaphor. It's a fundamental tenet that redefines the nature of therapeutic relationships and, by extension, all human connections. Yalom, as a therapist, famously refuses to adopt a posture of detached expertise. Instead, he openly acknowledges that he, too, is a human being grappled with the same core existential concerns: death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness that trouble his patients. He sees himself not as a superior guide, but as a companion on a shared, often arduous, journey. This radical transparency about our common human condition, he argues, is what truly fosters deep, authentic connection and provides immense solace. In works like The Gift of Therapy, Yalom frequently describes moments where he reveals his own vulnerability or existential struggles to a patient, not for self-indulgence, but as a deliberate therapeutic intervention. He might share a personal fear, a past struggle, or a moment of doubt, not to shift the focus on the patient, but to normalize their experience, to reduce their sense of unique brokenness, and to implicitly convey, "You are not alone in this." This act of genuine self-disclosure, carefully timed and judiciously applied, creates a profound sense of mutual recognition. It chips away at the often isolating barrier between sane and insane, well and sick, revealing the universal thread of human struggle that binds us all. This concept extends far beyond the therapeutic dyad. Imagine applying the fellow traveler perspective to our everyday lives. Instead of viewing others through the lens of their roles, achievements, or social masks, we would recognize the shared human being beneath: the difficult boss, the challenging family member, the struggling friend. Each is, like us, navigating anxieties of existence, seeking meaning, wrestling with freedom, and facing the inevitability of death. This perspective cultivates an immense capacity for empathy and compassion. When we see ourselves in others' struggles, our judgments soften, and our capacity for understanding expands. The liberation inherent in embracing the fellow traveler concept is multifaceted. Firstly, it dismantles the isolating illusion that our suffering is unique or that we are fundamentally flawed. Knowing that others, even those we perceive as strong or successful, contend with similar fears and doubts, brings immense relief. It fosters a sense of human solidarity. We are all in the precarious boat together, buffeted by the same existential winds. Secondly, it transforms our approach to relationships. Instead of seeking perfection or demanding that others fulfill all our needs, we can appreciate the courage it takes for another human being to simply be in the world, and we can offer them the same non-judgmental presence we wish for ourselves. Ultimately, Yalom's emphasis on the fellow traveler is a powerful call to connection rooted in our shared vulnerability. It invites us to drop our pretenses, to acknowledge our common existential predicaments, and to meet each other with authenticity and compassion. It reminds us that even in our fundamental isolation, as discussed in an earlier topic, we are connected by the very fact of our aloneness. This shared human condition, far from being a source of despair, becomes the most profound basis for genuine empathy, mutual support, and a richer, more deeply felt journey through life.